Alright, in this tutorial we are going to learn how we can prepare a photo to be etched, typically with laser. We've got a monument here for the Risinger family. Got the photo that they've supplied already imported here, sized about where I want it. If you've seen the video or the tutorial on doing porcelain pictures, you know that we can simply take an oval, size it to how we want, and use what's called the power clip effect, whereby we select our bitmap, hit power clip, select our container, and it basically cuts out that photo in that particular shape. In this case, we're going to do the same idea. We're going to use the power clip to do the same thing, and I'll point out some advantages to that. There are many different ways you can remove backgrounds from photos, either in Draw or in Paint or some other program. But this tutorial we're going to do the clip art or the power clip method. I'm going to back out of this here. So in this case, I want the background to be completely removed. So I need a power clip or a container that follows the contours of their heads and their shoulders. To do that, I'm just going to grab my pencil tool here, and I'm just going to start drawing as I go. And I'm going to go up and around, all the way around it. Now, one thing that you want to do is make sure that your line comes to the inside of the background, actually overlapping them as opposed to sitting out here in the background. If you have it on the background, especially in this photo since it's got a dark background, you will end up with a black line that goes all the way around them in the end, and we don't want that. If you happen to come in too far, that's okay, because no one's going to know that you clipped off, just a tiny bit of his jacket or even hair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fast forward here to a shape that I've already done, and you'll see how this is going to work. Okay, so here I have my shape highlighted in white. You see it goes all the way around. Down at the bottom I wasn't too particular because I'm going to crop that off here in just a minute. You'll notice that in this case I also have a piece here in the middle. I want to be able to look through them and see the white or gray background that we're going to have. So I also drew this piece in here and then combined it with this outside one using the arrange and combine under the menus there. Now, one of the reasons I like to use this method for this particular photo is because I do not want a right angle down here at the end of this photo in the end product. What I'd like to do is kind of have a nice curve coming down to be our bottom corner. So I'm going to get rid of a couple points here, and you see how easy this is doing it using a vector as opposed to trying to do something in photo paint. But all I have to do is kind of curve this in here, get it somewhere close. Then I'm going to go ahead and apply my power clip, again by selecting the bitmap first, coming to effects, power clip, place inside the container, click right on my line on the container. If you happen to miss, it'll tell you and give you another shot at it. I'm going to remove my white background in this case, so it's not necessary. But the power clip at this point is still editable. I can still come down here and adjust this curve, perhaps if I want a little bit more over this way or that way. You can add nodes, delete nodes, just like you're doing a regular design. But there's our basic background removed image that we can now add a background or what I like to call a glow to, which again can be done in several different shapes and sizes, and I'll show you a couple of those here. Okay, so now what we want to do, if I zoom in here, you will see the outer edge of this is very crisp, and if I were to add a background right now, it would be just that crisp, and I don't want it that crisp. I want it to fade in just a little bit, feather it in to the background that we're going to add. Unfortunately, Draw does not have a very good tool to do that, so I'm going to take it temporarily. I'm going to move it over into Photo Paint and have the effect done there, and then bring it back in here. So the first thing I want to do, since at this point it is a vector type graphic, I'm going to convert it to a bitmap under the bitmaps menu, and since I do have it in color right now, I'll go ahead and change it over to grayscale. That'll save me from having to do it in Photo Paint or later. Anti-aliasing will smooth it out a little bit. You probably want that checked. Transparent background is key here because otherwise it's going to put in a white background everything we just cut out. So make sure those two boxes are checked. Go ahead and hit OK. That converts it to a bitmap. I'm going to right click on it and say Edit Bitmap, and what that's going to do is launch it inside of Corel Photo Paint. Okay, so here's my bitmap now in Photo Paint. You'll see the checkered background here implies that this is transparent. I do have my objects docker open here. You'll need to open that if you don't have it under Window, Dockers, and then Objects. Make sure you have that. We'll use that here shortly. The first thing I want to do is I need to create a mask. Even though this is a transparent background, I need to create what's called a mask, which again is similar to a selection. Since I've only got one object here, all I have to do is select that object. It shows blue here, so I know it's selected. Come up to the mask menu, say create mask from the object. And visually on screen you can't see a whole lot. I do have some boxes here that I could resize things, but I do have a mask. If I were to move this, you will see the typical orange mask that it shows that I do in fact have this mask here. So what I want to do is I want to feather the edges of this mask. Again, that's under the mask menu. We are going to come to the mask outline and we're going to hit feather. And again, this is something you can play with as far as how many pixels you want to bring it in. I'm going to do maybe 6, and you can see the orange as it comes out here. The direction is to the inside since I'm working my way from the outside in. Edges are curved. Again, you can play with those settings if you need to. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Now I can zoom in and look at that to see that it's feathered, although all you're going to see is the orange. So at this point I have the main part of the photo and then the feathered edges. What I need to do now is make that a new object. So I'm going to come to the object menu, hit create. I'm going to do a copy selection. And so now as you see in my objects docker, I have two objects, object number 1 and number 2. Number 2 being the faded or feathered version. So I'm going to click number 1 and delete that. And you'll notice that the edges here are slightly faded than the way they were before. You can tell by the outline of the actual object here. All I have to do at this point is hit save. It will automatically take it back into Draw with the feathered outline. And as you can see, there's a little bit of a blur and a feather there, which is exactly what I'm looking for at this point. From here on out, I want to be able to add a background. Again, this is something I could have done in Photo Paint, either manually painting on a separate layer behind it and going kind of around, which is feasible and a good way to do it. I could also do it here a couple different ways. I can create an oval and take that in the paint and run a vignette effect on it. In this case, I want the outline to go around. I want the shape of my background to kind of match the shape of their heads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use drop shadow effect.